Good morning, students. Welcome to Good Samaritan School online classes. In the last class, we discussed about the overview of this heredity and evolution chapter. And as we discussed before, we are not going to learn anything in evolution for this academic year because of chapter was reduced, and evolution topic we are not going to learn anything, but only heredity we're going to learn completely. That means from page number 142 to page number 146, not if 147, up to the question answers which is given here. Right. So, in the introduction part, what we learned is we learned that there are few terms we use to learn in this topic, because that terms are very important to learn about this chapter before starting this. So, what are these terms here? Uh, there are some terms like genetics. What are genetics, variation, heredity, dominant trait, recessive trait, allele? So all these are some of these important terms which again and again repeatedly comes in this topic, in this chapter. Okay, let's learn what is genetic. Genetic is nothing but it is one of the branch of science that deals with heredity and variations. Okay, heredity and variation. Then what is variation? So if that genetic deals with heredity and variation, we should know what is these two things. What variation? Variation is nothing but the differences among the individual of the species or population are called variations. For example, as we know that in human being also, all the human beings are not like the same. If a father or mother is there and the child born to them are not actually resembles like their father or their mother, so they are like different. That means a mixture of both father and mother. Some variation will be there. So that is what the differences among the individuals, okay, of the species or the populations are called variations. Heredity. What is heredity? It means the transmission of features, or in other words characters, or in other words traits, from one generation to the next generation. For example, father and mother, they give birth to a child and they are transmitting their own character, their own features to their offspring, in other words their child. Okay, that is what heredity. For example, if father the color of a father is a light color or a dark color, then the child may also have a dark color. Okay, if the father have the hairs of the father is looks like a curved one, some of the child may also have the same thing, right? So that is what we can say, that is in heredity. Dominant trait. Dominant trait is nothing but the trait express themselves in an organisms in every possible combination and can be seen. And for example, as I told you, it is also given in your book also in page number 143. If for example, if a person who is having an ear, okay, it is given here, a person is having an ear like somehow like a closed one. Okay, hair lobes, you can look at it, there is a different types of hair lobes you can see here. Okay, some are closed and some they may have a joint hair links. Okay, curved one and the joint one. Okay, if the father has this, you can even check with yourself what type of hairs you have and compare with your father and mother and you check it. That is what we can say dominant. If your father's gene is dominant in you, that means, okay, that will come to you. That is the reason you also have the same type of an ears like that. Some people even the nose looks like their mother, That means the mother's gene is dominant. That is why you two have the same type of nose structure. And always this dominant it will be written in capital letters as TT. T means tall, and R it means be rounded. Okay, so always written in capital letter. And recessive is nothing but the trait which is not expressed in the presence of the dominant allele. Okay, allele is nothing but the pair of genes. Okay, pair of genes, you all know that gene, they have a pair somewhat like this. Okay, this is what an allele. Okay, pair of gene. Okay, we'll move on to the next topic here. uh, Accumulation of variation during reproduction. Okay, the inheritance from the previous generation provides both a common basic body design as well as subtle subtle changes in it. You can see some of these like in if for example in an asexual reproduction, there is an example of given here. You all know that asexual reproduction, one will break themselves into two. Okay, here only one will break down into two. So in the first generation you can see there is no big change in their design, body design, very few changes you can see here. But in the second generation will have a differences that they inherit from the first generation as well as newly created differences. That is what given here in this figure also. If one bacterium divides and then the resultant two bacteria divides again, okay, one is divided into two and these two is getting again divided by two. Okay, so the four individual bacteria generated would be very similar. There is no much difference in asexual reproduction, right? That is what we learned in the introduction part. In asexual reproduction we learned a sugar cane. We can't see the much or big differences in variation. Very few, very fewer variation you can see in asexual reproduction. Why? There would be only very minor differences between them and generated due to small inoccurrence of DNA copying, and just they are copying the DNA, and because of that there is no big difference. But however, continue reading it, however, if sexual reproduction is involved, even greater diversity will be generated. You can see a much different types of variations. Okay, there is a question comes here now. Do all these variation in a species have equal chances of surviving in their environment in which they find themselves? Not at all. No, it is not possible. So do you think that variation of all these species, different variation will come? Do you think that all they have a equal chance of surviving in the environment? Obviously not. Why? Depending on the nature of variations, different individuals would have different kind of advantages. So for example, bacteria that can withstand heat will survive better in a heat wave, as we have discussed earlier. So that means the one which is having different types of variation, that means the one advantages, different kind of advantages, that the bacteria that can withstand even heat can even survive better in the heat wave also. Okay, that is what we are learning from here. Okay, there is two questions I given here. I want you to read this and try to find the answers for that. If not, we'll discuss in the class. Okay, let's start with this heredity. The most obvious outcome of this reproduction process still remains the generation of individual of similar design. The rules of heredity determines the process by which traits and characters are reliably inherited. Let us look closer of this. Inherited type. Inherited means it comes from your parents. Okay, it comes and your parents get their character from their parents. Okay, that is what inherited traits. What exactly do we mean of similarities and differences? We know that a child bears all the basic features of human beings. However, it does not look exactly like its parent. Are we looking like our parents exactly? No, only few characters, few changes you can see. Some nose maybe looks like your father, and the eyes maybe look like your mother, right? So only few things will be there. That's what we learned this example in this activity. Okay, so there is a person whose name is Mendel. Uh, he started doing a research on these inherited traits. How he did? The main rules for inheritance of such trait in human beings are related to the fact that both the father and mother contribute practically equal amount of genetic material to the child. As we know that we are getting 23 pairs of chromosomes from your father and 23 from your mother, 23 from father and 23 from the mother, so that we get the pair of chromosomes. Okay, that means from equal paternal as well as maternal we combine to form a child. What will then the trait seen in child be? Okay, based on this, Mendel started to do an experiment. What happens? For example, the father is very tall and the mother is very short. Okay, so what is going to be their children? Are all the children are going to be tall, or are they going to be short? If the father is having a brown eye and the mother is having a blue eye, or in that their child when they're born, all of them will have a brown eye or a blue eye. Okay, that is what we are trying to think of it. Okay, so let's learn about Mendel. Who is Gregor John Mendel? Gregor John Mendel, he was lived in 1822 to 1884, and as we know that he studied both science and mathematics, and he failed in the teaching examination, and he's tried to go for again to study about the pea plants. Okay, and he started doing research on this, and you know that he is the father of genetics. In his time, many people say that you are actually such a waste fellow, or you know, but once after they understand the importance of the genetics, they started appreciate him for his work. Okay, Mendel's work on inheritance. What he did, he chose a plant, garden pea. Okay, garden pea is said to be Pisum sativum. In biological name is Pisum sativum. It's actually a pea plant. Okay, and what he did, he took a monohybrid cross. Monohybrid cross is nothing but the cross between the two pea plants. Okay, that means one will be tall, another is a short one. Okay, so only one character he took. That is what monohybrid cross. Dihybrid means because he took many kind of character, or Mendel used a number of contrasting visible characters. For example, some peas are round and wrinkled seed, tall and short plant, white and violet flowers. Like that, many things he chosen, but he is not taking all these things. For example, tall plant with round seed and with violet flower. No, he didn't take all these characters. He took only one, that is tallness. That is why it is monohybrid cross. He took one contrasting character. If we take two contrasting character, height भी देखना है, or you should see the color of the flowers also. That means two things. That means it is dihybrid. Okay, will you understand that? So here it takes a monohybrid cross. It took a pea plant where one is tall, one parent is tall For example, this parent is tall and this parent is short. T represents dominant, so we give a name as a male flower, and this small tt is a female one. Okay, recessive, and this is a dominant one, and this is a tall tt one. Double the capital letter T comes means it is the dominant. In other word, it is tall, actually very tall, and this tt small letter t indicates it is short one. Okay, what are the gametes present in that? Gametes are T and isme chota t. The big T indicates T, the big one, and the small one is C. So here it is 2T and here it is 2 small t. So in first generation, for example, for F1 progeny, we name them as a progeny or first F1 generation also we can write. In F1 generation, what happens? They are they cross together, so we get T, capital letter T and small letter t, and then capital letter T and small letter t. So all the first one generation or F1 generation, all these comes are all tall one, or all tall. You can ask me, sir, if small t comes, it should be a small one. No, if one capital letter T comes, that means that plant is taller. Okay, that you have to keep it in your mind. If one small t comes, that is, it is taller. Okay, so I made only two things. Actually, it should be like this with this, and another this with another this. So it should be tt, and this with this, another this with this t. So here we should have 4 tt's, right? So all these uh, the first generation are all tall plants, tall. I just do it again here so that it will be easy for you to understand. P2 capital letter T to small letter t. One here tt, and here with this tt, and here tt, and here tt. Will you understand now? This is how happens here. So in the first generation, all the plants are all comes as a tall plants. Okay, now what happens, these two we are going to take now. Okay, any of these two plants, which is the first generation plants, and I'm going to take that. What he did is he self pollinated it. You know what is the difference between self pollinated and cross pollinated? Self pollinated means the anther will fell on the petals inside. The anther fell into the pistil of the same flower. Okay, so androecium will fell into the same flowers gynoecium, then they matured. Okay, that is what self pollinated. It happens in the same flower. Okay, what happens now in the second generation, F2 generation? So we take two things. So first T will be like this. So I try to make a box so that it will be easy for you to understand this. So T and T. Okay, this will come here, and this one will come here. So T and small letter t. Clear? So what happens here? T into T, capital letter T and capital letter T. T into T, capital letter T and small letter t. T into T, capital letter T, small letter t, and T into T, it's small t, small t. So when capital T comes, any one comes, it is tall. Tall. This is also tall. And this is short. So here we find 3 comes as tall and 1 comes as short. So we can write it as phenotype ratio. What is phenotype ratio? So here, how many talls are there? 3. And how many short one? 1. So that means phenotype is 3 tall and 1 small short one. This is what phenotype. Phenotype is nothing but it talks about the physical appearance of an individual, external appearance of an individual. So I can write it as external appearance of an individual. Okay, let's see the genotype. Genotype ratio. Genotype ratio is nothing but the genetic make of an individual. If you watch closely inside this, only this is tall, right? Capital letter T and capital letter T, the genetic itself is tall. So we can write it as how many capital letter T, how many capital letter T is here? Only 1. And how many capital letter T and small letter T are here? 2. And how many only small letter T? Only 1. So the genotype ratio is 1:2:1. That means 2 tall and 1 short. Okay, this is what he identified in the pea plant, right? Once again, I just want to summarize what is actually given in Mendel's work of inheritance. He took a plant selection, garden pea he took, and monohybrid cross he did. Monohybrid cross means he took only one character and cross breeding it, crossing them between. That means one contrasting character is he took only tall plant, tall and a short plant. So he took a parent, one is tall, another is short one. In the first generation, when they crossed together, they got all are tall one. Okay, you can look at it after they give only tall plants, all are tall. Then in the second generation, but means inca beta, okay, inca beta beti. So what happens? We are taking only any one of these two. So one is capital letter T, small letter t, we are writing it here. Another capital letter T, small letter t, we are writing it here. In the second generation, after they cross, we get that means 3/4 of that comes as tall. We write it as 3/4 will be tall and 1/4 is a short one. So this is what I have identified by the Mendel's experiment of inheritance. So here we are learning phenotypic ratio is 3:1. Phenotypic ratio is nothing but the external appearance, looking tall, all are tall. Okay, externally they look tall, but inside their genetic character, inside them also some of these shortness are there. Okay, that's what here we are trying to write it as. Only one capital letter T and 2 capital letter T and small letter t and 1 small letter t. Okay, so the genotype ratio is 1:2:1. Okay, this is for today, student. I hope you understand this topic, and further classes we will be learning the next Mendel's experiment about the two hybrid, that means dihybrid cross, in our next class. If you have any doubt on this topic, please send your queries in my personal WhatsApp number. Thank you, student, and have a nice day.